G'day! In this video, we'll be previewing the Scourge of Ghyran rules for the Slaves to Darkness. Scourge of Ghyran is offering each faction a set of seasonal rules that will be match play legal for the upcoming season, General's Handbook 25-26. Looking into the eyes of the gods, Slaves to Darkness have gained 2 new battle formations, 3 new artifacts, as well as an alternative Warscroll for Abraxia, the Spear of the Ever-Chosen. Now, this unit does have a separate pitch battle profile, and it can be substituted for the original Warscroll. You obviously, as a unique character, cannot include both the Scourge of Ghyran and the original. You've got to pick one or the other. You can use this in an Army of Renown. You can't use it in a Regiment of Renown. So let's make some pledges to the Dark Gods with some offering of rules. Slaves to Darkness gain 2 new battle formations to go alongside the existing 4, like your Godwrath Warband and your Dark Oath Horde. Chaos Horde, once per turn in your hero phase, lets you pick a friendly Warriors of Chaos unit. Then, pick up to 2 visible friendly Dark Oath units that do not have a Pledge to Chaos keyword, that are wholly within 12 inches of that Warriors of Chaos unit. And then until the start of your next turn, the target has the same Pledge of Chaos keyword as the Warrior of Chaos unit. Now, your Warriors of Chaos units could be your Chaos Knights, Abraxia, Chosen, Chaos Lord, your Gore Beast Chariot, and your Exalted Heroes. While obviously all of your Dark Oath units will be eligible so long as they don't already have a pledge. And this does include your Wilderfiend. Now, you won't need to choose 2 units. It's completely optional from that declaration point of view, so you don't have to have 2. So you can be applying the buff and moving away from the Warriors of Chaos because you also don't need to stay wholly within 12 inches after the hero phase declaration has happened. So they can then start moving independently. You don't need to keep this 12-inch bubble. Traditionally, a Slaves to Darkness army would only be allocating 5 pledges throughout the game for units that don't start with some type of pledge, like the Gaunt Summoner, like the Demon Prince, like through your banner allocation. And this battle formation is going to help promote real pledge efficiency when I think about this, when you're tapping into this battle trait, because it's allowing you to place those traits on units that you wouldn't otherwise be allocating a pledge, or maybe you'd be putting the pledge on them in the late game. So when I think about the pledges, Tzeentch definitely has the least synergy when it comes to allocating the pledge to extra units, because it's really only the unit who uses the ability can tap into that. So giving it to other units is not as beneficial. While the other 3 pledges are universal, they're passive. So more than one unit can be really tapping into the ability as you're playing along. So when you think about your Dark Oath units, I think that Khorne and Slaanesh are definitely the ones that stand out with the pledges. Khorne being the improved to the damage output with some extra attacks on those melee weapons, while Slaanesh is going to help those Dark Oath Marauders trigger the Oath of the Marauder ability. That's going to gain them that extra point of rend when they charge using an 8+. Through Slaanesh, you would get an extra dice on the charge, but it doesn't make it a 3d6. You get to discard the lowest dice, so you'd hopefully get a better chance of hitting that 8+. But even though I didn't talk about Nurgle, you still have some Nurgle-licious abilities here. It is a little situational, and we'll talk about some really nice combinations on the next page when we talk about our artifacts, because you do have a new artifact called the Varanite Shackle, which will synergize very nicely to create a 5-up ward bubble on your Dark Oath. More on that soon. Going back to Tzeentch, I think you're just better off pledging the Dark Oath unit that you want to teleport. So instead of trying to allocate multiple Tzeentch marks through the Warrior of Chaos ability, you're better off just knowing that you want to teleport this particular unit. So I'm going to allocate it somehow or prioritize it, than wasting that on this particular battle trait. So overall, really cool, and would love to see more of these Warriors of Chaos and Dark Oath synergizing in that one list. The other battle formation is the Champions of Chaos, and that's a passive ability that adds 2 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly, non-monsters Slaves to Darkness heroes. So this is a great way to boost the damage output of nearly all of your heroes, with the exception of Abraxia, Archaon, and Be'lakor. Even your unique heroes like Eternus and Gunnar Brand will benefit from this ability. When I think about this ability and who benefits the most, I think of the Lord on Demonic Mount, I think of the Ogreoid Myrmidons, and I also think about the Demon Prince. This battle formation is going to also combine nicely with your Pledge of Khorne, because then that would give you a total of 3 attacks to the hero, which would make even the most unassuming foot hero punch well above their weight with +3 attacks. That's just absolutely ridiculous at times. The Ogreoid theme armies, I think about Ogreoids a lot here, and they would absolutely love this formation, giving the Myrmidons have a really strong profile, and once they're wounded, that would then bring them up to +5 attacks, which would go on and slaughter almost any unit going toe-to-toe. +5 attacks on the Myrmidons, absolutely crazy. I did mention the Demon Prince as well. While it doesn't have the strongest profile, it does obviously have the strike first ability. So it'll be a nice little combination to clear out those chaff lines, or either chip away or kind of remove that hero or beast that is half wounded potentially. The Chaos Lord on Demonic Mount becomes a real wrecking ball with his ability, especially going into those smaller infantry units. I probably wouldn't throw them straight into a monster hero or something super elite, but definitely can again punch above its weight. Normally, when you think about the game playing out, unless there's some absolute clear synergies happening between hero and unit, most people would prioritize taking out the unit first, because they're often your hammer units, things like your Chosen, things like your Varangard, things like your Knights. They would prioritize that first, because they're the objective scorers, they're the hammers, they're the anvils. And when you start buffing up your heroes, you're going to force a really tough decision on where your opponent focuses their attacks, where they might prioritize their all-out defenses, and you've got multiple threats on the battlefield. So overall, 2 interesting battle formations, bringing something unique to Slaves to Darkness. And if you don't like any of these, you still have your 4 options available to you. Slaves to Darkness have gained 3 new artifact options to go alongside your existing artifacts like Infernal Puppet. Amulet of Chaos triggers at the end of any turn. You get to pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches of this unit to be the enemy target. Then, you get to pick a friendly Dark Oath infantry unit in combat with that enemy unit to be the friendly target. So we're picking an enemy target, and we can pick a friendly target. We then roll a d3. On a 2-up, you will inflict that amount of mortal damage to the enemy target equaling to that roll. And if we chose a friendly target as well, we would return the number of slain models equal to the roll. This will trigger in every turn, and it doesn't require you to have a Dark Oath unit. This is an optional feature in this artifact. At minimum, you can deal some mortal damage to that enemy target, and your Dark Oath have to be infantry units, so it's not going to work with your Fell Riders, but it will work with most of your other options. Both of these effects use the exact same roll. So we roll that 1 dice, the D3, and looking for the 2-up. So there is that 33 or 1 in 3 chance that this artifact does nothing for both units. Now, when we look at the Dark Oath side of it, I think the damage is self-explanatory. The passive recursion for the Dark Oath units will really help you navigate the limitations of not being able to use Rally while you're in combat. And it's going to help your units like your Dark Oath Marauders, your Savages, and your Oath-Sworn Kin. Now, the Oath-Sworn Kin is a really interesting pick, because when you look at the Warscroll, each model has health 3. So not only will you be keeping around your wizard Broken Nudge a little longer, but also returning slain models, not returning slain health, means that you're getting more value from this particular artifact through the Oathsworn than you would with the other options. The Varanite Shackle is a passive ability that provides friendly non-Warriors of Chaos Slaves to Darkness units a 6-up ward while they are wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Now, the bonus is only applicable for non-Warriors of Chaos units, but it doesn't prevent a Warriors of Chaos hero from bearing the artifact. So the artifact will probably work best in combination with the new Chaos Horde battle formation that we just spoke about to provide 2 Dark Oath units a 5-up ward. Now, how that works is you would be gaining the 6-up ward from the artifact bubble. And then when we talked about that Chaos Horde battle formation, you would be essentially copying the Pledge of Nurgle from the marked unit to 2 other units. So then your Dark Oath go from having a 6-up ward to having a 5-up ward on those 2 Dark Oath units. But outside of your Dark Oath, you could absolutely still use this on your Ogreoid Theridens for a 5-up ward, again through the Pledge of Nurgle. If this artifact is up your alley, you could look at a cavalry hero like the Lord on Karkadrak, who would offer you a large aura radius from the bigger base size. Head of the Unworthy is a passive effect where if a friendly Slaves to Darkness hero with any Dark Apotheosis points are destroyed, the unit that has the artifact would gain 6 Dark Apotheosis points. So, to make this artifact work, you're going to have to essentially have 2 heroes playing along here. One will have this artifact for the Heads of the Unworthy, who will eventually turn into demonhood, when the other hero that you select for the Eyes of the Gods ability, and you select that during deployment, that hero has to go out and achieve some points and needs to have more than 1 point or 1 point or more. It's going to have to use the Eyes of the Gods ability to either go in and fight at least once, or it's going to have to go in and contest an objective wholly outside friendly territory at least once. Do one of those 2 things and you'll get yourself at least a point. Then if that hero dies, the one you selected with the Eyes of the Gods, not the artifact bearer, when that dies, you'll get 8 Dark Apotheosis points on the artifact bearer. Then that allows them to basically do one of 2 things. Now, really, the artifact is an insurance policy for getting to demonhood. So it could be a distraction. It could put a focus on either the artifact bearer to get rid of them and again stop the demonhood feature, or you could be putting a target on this particular hero, especially one where they might have range damage and could stop you from even generating one of those points. So you'll need to be careful and mindful of how this all plays out, but ultimately you're chasing the demonhood. Yes, you can use the Aura of Chaos, but I think we all know that we're going for demonhood, not the Aura of Chaos. And really, to make the most of this, you really want to be playing with the artifact and playing around with that aggressive Eyes of the Gods choice, because all you need to do is have that single fight ability. So it doesn't matter if that hero survives or it doesn't survive. It's got to at least just fight once, resolve the fight, or go in and contest an objective that's sitting in no man's land or sitting in an enemy territory. And that's enough to generate you one of those Dark Apotheosis points. That then satisfies the requirement for the artifact. And then it would go in and eventually trigger the Ascension to Demonhood feature in the hero phase. So it is possible that you could lose both of your Eyes of the Gods choice, the artifact bearer and the one you picked during the deployment phase. So just be mindful and protect the hero to make sure that you don't lose both of them before you ascend to demonhood. A little bit techie, but you kind of get the gist. It's a good artifact if you want to basically guarantee that demonhood without, it's a good rule. Finally, we have a alternative Warscroll, a Scourge of Ghyran version for Abraxia, the Spear of the Everchosen. Now, this is an optional Warscroll. It will have its own pitch battle profile. You don't have to use this one. If you prefer the existing one, you do you, stick to it. It's completely your choice. But at least let me talk you through the differences so we know what the differences are between the two scrolls. There is a few tweaks on the base profile. Is it Gorbolja has gained an extra point of damage. It's moving it from damage 2 to damage 3. It has retained the anti-hero and the charge bonus. Thanatorg profile has also improved, making it easier to wound with a wound roll of a 2-up, and it's now Ren 2. So between the two melee profiles, this is a significant damage increase. All of her abilities have been replaced, so you no longer have that random dice roll effect off the back of the spear. You no longer override the Varangard strike last when you fight for a second time. It no longer has the reduce the enemy hero's attack on a dice roll, and it no longer splashes back mortal damage when she suffers damage on a random, I think it's a 4-up. But what she has gained is a bunch of new abilities. And when you look at the themes between the old Warscroll and this version of the Warscroll, you'll notice that she's moved away from being purely a support piece into her own threat on the battlefield, and still has some support mechanics, but she's much more of a threat independently than the previous version of Abraxia. Unstoppable Invasion is a once per turn rampage ability that can be used in any charge phase. If she charged this phase, pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of her, and she will inflict D3 mortal damage. But then, she gets to move 2d6 after that, which includes passing through models in the target unit. The only caveat here is that she must end in combat with either the unit that she was just in combat with or a different unit. Either way, it's a free move, just has to land in combat. Now, the good thing about this particular rampage is that there's no failure point. So you don't have to roll a 2-up or a 3-up to trigger the ability. Yes, there is a 2d6 roll, and if you roll a double 1, it's not a very good outcome. But is that really a failure? It's just that you're stuck into combat with the unit that you're charged. Obviously, with a higher dice roll, it will not only deal damage, obviously the D3, but also it'll give you much better field position, being able to get into it, maybe a unit that you much prefer to be in combat, especially when you then factor in not only the 2d6 move, but you've then also got the 3-inch pile-in, you then have the 3-inch weapon range. So she's going to have an incredible threat potential, especially if you roll a solid, even a 2d6 average is 7. So 7 plus 3 plus 3, it's a pretty juicy piece, so long as you don't block yourself off too much with that largish, she's not on a 160 base, but she's on a decent sized base. So just be mindful of positioning. Think about making sure that you can tap in and make the most of that potential move. I absolutely love it. You got a couple of other abilities. You have the Champion of the Undivided. It's a combat phase ability that is used in your turn, and that lets you pick a friendly, non-unique Slaves to Darkness unit wholly within 12 inches that doesn't have a Pledge of Chaos keyword. Now, for the rest of the turn, add 1 to the Ren characteristic of its melee weapons while they're contesting an objective that you don't control. So this extra rend bonus is going to be a significant damage output for a wide range of units. Things like your Varangard and your Chaos Knights, who would be striking on, a Ren 3, I think it works out to be when you start applying all the bonuses off the charge. Obviously, again, you have to make them unmarked. And the buff is conditional on a unit that is contesting an objective that you don't control. So once you control the objective, you can't be grinding it out because you're not going to be then getting the boost. Hopefully, you hit the objective, you smash your opponent, then you keep moving along and keep generating this extra rend bonus. It is going to be great for armies that have multiple hammer units and don't have access to too many pledges in the early game. it actually could work really nicely in a sort of chaos army, because yes, you're not going to have the strike last overwrite like the older Braxia, but given that you don't have the pledge markings in the Swords of Chaos, all of your army is going to be getting the extra rend. So a lot of play here already with Abraxia, but wait, there is more. The Unending Will to Conquer is an end of any turn ability that will heal Abraxia D6 health if she's contesting an objective that you do not control. So objective control, as we hopefully all know, is determined after all other abilities have been resolved, including all of your end of turn abilities. So it's going to mean that when she charges onto an objective and she clears it, she will still heal that D6 damage before technically capturing the objective. So then what you're able to do is you're able to then keep moving on and powering through, going into those no man lands objectives. She could be hit with a cover fire or some spell damage, then obviously hit the objective. Either, even if there was no combat, she would then be able to heal up some of the damage. Or if she went on and charged later, obviously, hopefully charging onto an objective. So with some objectives that are available without contesting, you can still be healing her up and keeping her as close to healed as physically possible, which is nice. And the more you keep her around, the more that she'll be a terror in the late game as she keeps healing, gaining those charge bonuses, doing the mortal damage impact, and then obviously playing around with the unstoppable invasion to also then be getting all that extra movement shenanigans. But wait, there's even more there. You've got the Mutilative Spear that is her other new ability that lets you pick an enemy unit that's had damage points allocated to it by Abraxia in that turn. Now, what that does is it turns the control score of your opponent to a max score of 1 for the rest of the turn. So this is going to be awesome to go in and, again, go in and claim objectives that are tied to this ability, and things like elite armies where you've got a high control score, like my poor old Sons of Behemoth, or maybe you've got some ogres, maybe you've got, some Kurnoths, or some type of super elite army that has a higher control score than average. Anything has a control score of 5 or 10, or in the world of Gargants, much more than that. This will be really powerful ability in combination to many of the other things here. So ultimately, when I look at this version of Abraxia, she has more universal appeal to a Slaves to Darkness army, as she's no longer tied to the value of buffing up Varangard. She's going to provide potential offense boost to those units that don't have a pledge, especially those that might be a hammer unit that don't have a pledge yet. And it's going to help you use some abilities to go on and outscore your opponent on an objective. It's going to reward you for being aggressive and charging and hitting other units and keep moving along and keep hitting new objectives, keep hitting charges, keep basically being on the move. And I think that's going to reward a playstyle that might be based around knights or some type of other type of unit that's not just purely Varangard. And you know what? If you're a Varangard lover, you've still got the old Warscroll anyway. So overall, this is a solid update for Slaves to Darkness players. You've gained 2 new battle formations that can mix up some of your list building. You could lean into some of the Dark Oath with the pledge mechanics we've spoken about earlier, or you could be jacking up with some solid roids on your non-monster heroes with some extra attacks. Now, who knows what traditional lists are going to look like? I know in the last season, we've had a heavy emphasis on Varangard and Chosen. We've seen some warriors kind of pop up, but it's been Varangard and Chosen doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So we don't know what the General's Handbook has in store for them. And while these two new battle formations won't immediately replace this particular style, I think both of them are certainly useful and will mix up some of the list building in your army. The new artifact options are pretty neat. My favorite are probably either going to be the Head of the Unworthy, for that basically almost guarantee ascension of demonhood for a hero. Or if you're thinking about someone like me who loves their Dark Oath models, doesn't necessarily want to do a whole Dark Oath army, but wants to mix up their Warriors of Chaos with some of the tribes, that Varanite Shackle could go a long way, especially when you combine it with the Nurgle marks and the Chaos Horde battle formation. So there's some nice combinations there. But hey, you've got the Slaanesh mark, you've still got the Khorne mark, a lot to play around with there. The other thing we've also gotten is that new Abraxia, which is going to move her away from the support piece. I keep reinforcing it, right? Because you really didn't see Abraxia outside of Varangard lists. And often when you took her, you're taking her because you've got 6 Varangard, or you've got 6 and 3, or some type of combination of Varangard. And you're bringing her, 1, because you want to be able to remove the strike last, but 2, she might do some extra damage, but she was Varangard tied. Now, with that new movement rampage, the boosted melee profile, and some extra shenanigans, I think she brings something different. I want to call her almost an Archaon, because she's definitely not Archaon, but she definitely can sit in that spot where you've got a centerpiece model that's built around a piece like Abraxia. You've got your Knights, you've got your Warriors, you've got your Varangard, you've got whatever the combination looks like, you chosen, whatever you like, run it. But I think she plays around nicely in a average Slaves to Darkness army. But I'm kind of going into the theory crafting route here. I would love to hear from you to see what you're thinking of building around, like what kind of crazy ideas come to mind when it comes to Abraxia, or maybe some of the new battle formations, or the pledge combinations with some of the artifacts. If you're thinking about some of these things, why not come over to the AOS Coach Discord server, where we have plenty of dedicated spaces to talk about all the factions like Slaves to Darkness. The link is down below in the episode description. I hope that has been valuable and it helps you ascend to demonhood. Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AOS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double 1 on a spell cast.